Hi, I'm Kara Durrett.
Hi, I'm Jessamine Burgum, and you're listening to In Her Words.
We love our Pinky Promise ladies, Jessie Burgum and Kara Durrett. They are a women-led production company supporting projects like Scarlett Johansson's directorial debut and Pamela Anderson in The Last Showgirl. This conversation has so many valuable nuggets, like finding a great partner, saying no, and always focusing on having fun. And we always have fun talking to Jessie and Kara. We hope you enjoy. It was so nice meeting you at our Morgan Stanley dinner in the fall and getting to meet you guys. And I know we've been trying to get this together, so thank you. When we were working on prepping for today, I love the idea of talking about partnerships and your perspective on partnerships, because Renee and I have been partners for a long time as well, and I think there's something really special about women partnerships in business. And so I think that's a really interesting kind of an interesting topic we can talk about today, of how you find that person, what you look for in that person, and how you work together. So we're excited to kind of hear how Pinky Promise came about, how you guys work together, and where you're going in the future. So very excited for this conversation.
Oh, I love that conversation.
Yeah, me too, Gretchen. That's our favorite thing to talk about. Thank you.
We are each other's yin to the yang. We are like the opposites of people and also exactly the same, which is very nice. I'm sure you guys understand.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We 100% understand that.
It's special when we find it.
It really follows the arc of a love story in so many ways. But even though it's just like business female friendship love, but I'll always remember the first time I laid eyes on you, Kara.
Tell us how it started.
So the first project that Pinky Promise did was a film called "Honk for Jesus: Save Your Soul" by Adama and Adana Ebo, and Pinky Promise was still in its nascent stages. We had a press release and a laptop, basically, is like the only proof that we were a real company, and this was our first project. And we got to set in Decatur, Georgia, and there was a whole bunch of people on the project, and I just immediately clocked Kara as the person who was doing something a little bit differently. I mean, she was the person who knew the name of every single PA on set. She had a gratitude Slack channel where anyone could just post things that they were grateful for, shout out to someone who had done something that day that they really appreciated. And she was optimizing the experience for every person on set. She would ask, like, the youngest, newest person on set, like, what do you want to do someday? Like, what are your goals? And they're like, this, still in college kid who's, first time on set. And like, I think maybe I'm interested in doing locations. She's like, okay, well, I'm going to make sure that you're the PA that's on the location scout today. And I just was just blown away by how she carried herself. And we talk a lot at Pinky Promise now about, it's not just about the movies that we make, but it's about how we're making them. And I was just like, she just embodied that quality so beautifully. And so basically from day one, I spent the rest of the shoot just kind of courting her, trying to convince her to come work with me.
It was not a long court. It was a very
and luckily I convinced her, but I had to lock it down. I was like, "You're not going anywhere. You're my girl." Yeah, and I've been very lucky ever since. So yeah.
No, it was very mutual. I remember being on set, and Jessie had told me that this was her first kind of toe dip into this world. And I remember at the time, oh my god, my email. I remember at the time thinking, what will she think after it's done? Will she want to do it again, or will she learn the horrible lesson that we all learn, which is it's really hard? And it's about the journey for sure. It's not like just the experience on set. It's such a long road. And I think that Jessie and I had a few conversations, and really quickly I was like, oh, she's in it for the long haul, and she understands kind of the work that goes into it, and she understands the relationship building and what kind of people you want to surround yourself with, and how it's not just about making money fast. It's not just about becoming the fanciest whatever. It was about actually making things with quality people, and trying to like support the right voices, and just kind of everything Jessie was saying was exactly, honestly, what I'd always been looking for. It's funny, is like friends of mine for years used to joke that like I was always looking for a partner and I could never find the right person. And then I stopped looking for a partner, and then Jessie like fell into my lap a little bit. And the only reason I was always looking was because it's just so lonely when you're out there alone for a long time, and you're, especially if you're an independent producer, you're very isolated, and you don't know how anyone else is making movies, and you're just kind of on sets and traveling like a little bit of a gypsy. And so meeting another person who's like, oh, I want to be a gypsy too. And also, I believe all of the same things that you do around the world, like it made it very easy for us to fall in love. That's our love story.
I love
Yeah.
it. No, that's a great story. So backing up to kind of your each individual stories before that, did you always know that you wanted to be in the entertainment industry, on the production or in front of behind the camera, on the executive side? What was your path getting to that point on Honk for Jesus?
Yeah, I was one of those crazy kids that from the moment I could talk, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I am from Fargo, North Dakota, and I would put on shows in my basement. I would get my dad would drive me to the Fleet Farm, and we'd pick out like tarps and ropes and stuff to build sets in the basement. And I'd convince my brothers to help me put them on, and I'd be like handing out tickets in front and like running around and performing in it. So I that was always really my North Star. Um, and I, studied classical acting at the Guthrie in Minneapolis and Shakespeare's Globe in London for a bit, and so that performance bug was always in me. But little did I know that when I, came out to LA, that I'd kind of always been had that producing bug too, because I always just had like slightly too many opinions to just be acting. I like very much wanted to say excuse me, in the way that the story was being told on a in a bigger sense too. When the pandemic came around and I was back home in North Dakota, and there was, I was really thought to myself, there's just kind of no opportunity cost right now. Like the whole world is shut down, and this is something I've always dreamed of, is getting to do this on a bigger scale. And I was, really raised in a way where if you're given kind of any sort of, advantage in this world, it's your responsibility to share that. And so I thought, okay, I could do this, and I think I could, give other people an opportunity to tell their stories too. And yeah, and so we did it in the, in the middle of pandemic, and got very lucky, and was, found the right people, thank God,
I
and
think
we're kind of
luck
off to
is not the
races.
word I would use. Jessie is very, very smart and works incredibly hard, and raised a lot of money from people that she knew and also people she didn't know, and she put together an incredible business plan, and she really structured in a way. But I like that she always leads the story with, we got very lucky, and I'm like, very lucky with smart business sense and hard work, but yes, very lucky for
Oh,
that.
thank you, Kara. And Kara and I have this fun through line with other members of our team too, where we both have BFAs in acting. We're both like theater nerds at our core, and so that was something that we connected on, early on. I think that kind of influences how much we just love like the pure love of story and storytelling too.
Yeah.
And what about you, Kara? What was your are you a straight line through on the entertainment side, or
I am the
what was your
most
journey?
squiggly, wild line. I don't think I've ever in my life expected to be a producer or running a production company at all. I went to acting school. I was a wedding planner at one point. I was
Well,
a
that's a production.
nanny. I mean, I did a lot of weird, odd jobs. I was in a celebrity assistant for a little while, which was kind of my first dip into Hollywood.
Mhm.
Um, and then, yeah, after I started working in that space, I started making short films. And then out of those short films, they turned into features. And I did notice myself just being drawn to artists and like wanting to be around that creative space and wanting to make things that I wanted to see. I think selfishly, I just made things that I liked. And then, yeah, just kept getting brought on to, make more and more, and then found myself running into Jessie. But it was a strange path. It was not one I expected, but I'm so happy. I remember in my late 20s, after living in New York for a while, and I was acting and doing all the things, I had this realization that I was like, I'm just going to do what makes me feel happy and like makes me excited about things. And I'm gonna like follow the fun a little bit. And I don't know what will happen. I don't know what will it'll lead me. I remember I applied to grad school at USC and I got in and I almost went and I was like, I'm gonna go become an assistant for a second, like before I go to grad school, because maybe I'll learn something as an assistant and before I spend a bunch of money. And I did that. And honestly, yeah, it kind of all like went into a different direction from that moment on. So very, very random.
But what I love about your story, Kara, is that it's like seemingly random. But if you look back, like all the things you were doing, you were just
Yeah.
collecting producing skills along
Totally.
the way. Like
Yeah.
every like wedding planner, like celebrity assistant, the like
I mean,
help.
I used to put up signage in New York City in the middle of the night, like on billboards where you like jump out of a van illegally and like paint them. Like I did that for money. It
Oh
was
my
very
God.
strange. I was Alice at Alice's Teacup in New York for a while for like kids' birthday parties. Like the world is wide. I don't
You're
know.
an that's like indie producer, like boot camp, all the things
Yes,
you're doing,
yes.
you
Like
wear all the different hats.
that is survival at like, in terms of hustling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I am a hustler, that is for
You've
sure.
got
And
that. She's got the hustle for sure.
yeah, out of
Yeah.
necessity, you have to figure it out. So
Absolutely.
it's honestly my favorite thing about producing is like when there is a problem, the people in the room who are the ones who are like, okay, great, like how do we fix it? Versus, we just need more money or we need this or we need that. And it's like a lot of times you don't. I mean, some of the most creative moments in my life have been the smallest movies because I
Yeah,
think that when you're in constraints, you
totally.
really it breeds creativity. I think like the
100%.
bigger ones sometimes it's just easy to throw money at it, but
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
always the right
yeah.
method.
Necessity is the mother of invention. You get really creative when money isn't an option.
Yeah,
Yeah, you hear that from smaller productions.
yeah.
So something you said, Jesse, that I'm in awe of so Honk for Jesus being your first film that you guys and that's where you met each other. I mean, that was what 2020, 2021.
Yeah,
Mhm.
And I mean, you guys are working with Monkey Paw, you're working with Bleecker, you're selling movies to Focus. And by the way, Lisa Bennell is one of my favorite people in the world at Focus. I mean, oh, love everything that she does. I mean, you're working with Anthony Mackie and M. Night Shyamalan. Like that is so. And Renee and I are slightly obsessed with Pamela Anderson, so we have to ask about that too.
We
But
are too.
we are too. We are too.
like, you are working with the top of, I mean, Scarlett Johansson's directorial, like talk about that a little bit because I mean, in my mind, you guys are 30, your company's 30 years old and you've gone through the trenches and you've done all this. I mean, your company's barely 3 years old. And I mean, I know you've worked longer than that, but talk about that, those partnerships and those like, how did those connections happen and how are you partnering with these amazing companies and partnerships. That's
How are
fantastic.
you building your ecosystem,
Yeah,
basically?
yeah.
The Pinky Promise ecosystem.
I'm
Well,
gonna tell you a secret.
yeah.
It's a really shallow ecosystem because there's no ecosystems for women. So when you make one, it comes pretty quickly. Sorry, Jesse has a much
Oh,
probably a
no,
more
no,
fun.
I was just gonna say, thank you for it's really kind when you for you to kind of reflect back that to us because when we're kind of heads down just doing it, sometimes we forget to kind of pause and kind of look at how far we've come. But I would say, of all of the early successes that we may have had as a company, the thing that we're certainly most proud of really is the people that we get to work with every day. I mean, that is 100%. We have a team of 6 of us at Pinky Promise. We're all women. And I think people have started to notice that there's this a really unique sense of camaraderie and love there amongst us. Like we genuinely love spending time together and love what we do and have fun while we're doing it. And so I think that the that quality is it draws the right sort of people in, that people want to, if there's people that have a similar mindset of the way that we make movies is just important as the movies that we're making, we've noticed that those kind of soft skills, the relationship focus, um is truthfully like how we've won some of these bigger deals. We've beat out much bigger companies with a much more established track record. because we're really, riding on our ability to build these relationships. Where, I mean, I come from a very rural place. So does Kara. We're all from small towns, and there's when you're in a really tight knit community, you have to have repeat customers. You can't afford to not have somebody come back because there's only so many people, and that's that small town. Everyone's going to hear about it if you don't leave them with a great experience. And so Hollywood, as we know, is also a very, very small town. And so I think that that's kind of this advantage that Kara and I have coming from those kind of smaller town mindsets, is that we really care about community and relationships because we want people to keep coming back, especially when we're just establishing ourselves as a new company. So yeah, I think that that's kind of how we've managed to carve out our niche in a very oversaturated space, is that focus on relationships.
I also think it's about being nice. Like, we really want to be nice.
Yeah, true. Like, yeah, such
I
much
mean,
shorter way of saying it. Yes, that's better, more succinct.
it sounds like stupid, but it's like we've just made a decision that we're like, we only want to work with other nice people. We only want to support people who care about the things that are important. And the people who care about the other things, who have like egos coming in, it's like, it's just not our people. And that's okay. Like, there's such a big universe out there for all of us to exist, the good and, the not nice. But like, I think for us, we've really tried to surround ourselves in that space. And then also, I think we work really, really hard at seeking the people that we want to surround ourselves with. We really try to do as many generals, to take as many cold calls. I mean, the script that Scarlett Johansson directed was a blind submission from a friend of a friend. The script came to us. We read it. We loved it. We optioned it. And then we set it up afterwards. But, I think a lot of companies are just chasing sometimes the bigger fish. And I think for us, we're really trying to think about just kind of like the meat and potatoes of it, to be simple. But yeah, working hard at finding new voices. Like, we have a project right now we're working on, and we're trying to find a new director, ideally one that's POC, and ideally one that's, from the LGBT world. And like, it's fun to meet directors who maybe haven't had their chance yet. It's like really cool to get to write agents and managers being like, who do you have that's cool, that's coming up? Who do you have that doesn't have their first feature yet? Um, so yeah, I think that's just kind of the way we approach it all. And like I said in the beginning, there's not much space there for women. Like, there really isn't. When you really think about it, it's
Yeah.
such a tight window. It's like we have Barbie, and then we have like Barbie. We don't have like much else. So when you get to make the Pamela Anderson indie, like, yeah, of course you make that movie. That movie like totally needs to be made by Gia Coppola. Absolutely. Like, two powerhouse women. Like, let's do it. That's exactly what we should be putting our time and our energy toward. So yeah.
In, in starting the business and coming together, what were the biggest challenges that you found that were surprising, in terms of your personal growth and in starting the business and starting the company?
I there's that quote that's like, the bumblebee like physically shouldn't be able to fly, but the bumblebee doesn't know that, so it keeps flying anyway, which I've always loved. um and because when I started, I really truly knew nothing, that I kind of breezed past a lot of these these challenges, because I was like,
Happen.
I don't know about it, so like it just didn't affect me. I was like,
Flip it.
blinders on, baby, like just just keep doing the next right thing. And so I think
Yeah.
that truthfully, and thank God I didn't, but if I knew what I knew now, it would have felt like a much bigger hill to climb. But coming in just as this, optimistic green person who like really believed in the mission, I was just like, flying past some
Most of
of those
it.
things. Because I didn't, let it affect it. But I think that uh, something that I'm very passionate about for women in general, but particularly in this industry, is trusting your intuition. And that's something that I think can feel kind of like little woo woo and is just a phrase that you can toss out there. But I've said to everybody on our team, because this is from learned experience, that if there's ever something that feels off or feels isn't just sitting right with you, like raise your hand, flag it, and you don't even need to explicitly be able to explain why, but really I don't that's fine with me. I've learned enough from the challenges of doing this, that's something we have, that's innate to us as women, that we know when something's wrong.
Mhm.
And So just trust that vibe, and I'll believe you. If you're like, hey, something about this just feels fishy, feels strange, like I don't trust it, listen to that voice. Because all of the challenges that I had in the early days were when I ignored that voice, because I was like, I have the least amount of experience. Everyone knows more about this than I do. Like I'm new. Like this is probably just the way it's done. And I, kind of pushed that voice away, and that's when I found myself in trickier spots. And so I'm a huge proponent of saying no. Intuition is a good enough reason for me, period. We don't need to get into it. We can just move on. Other opportunities will come our way.
Oh God, I believe with that 100%. Also, I think we've learned, we talk about this a lot, the power of no.
Mm-hmm.
I think we were like really afraid to say no a lot in the beginning, because we were just
Totally.
like, yeah, we're new. We're like, we're going to keep everything kind of going and like yes to everything and like keep a very yes mentality, which is great. And I think it's like such a wonderful way to live. But I think we've really come into the power of no. And honestly, the more we've said no, the more we get. So we feel like there's like strength in that. And I don't mean no like yes or no to projects, but like, no, I won't take that deal, because it's like not a fair deal. And it doesn't actually feel like, it feels like you're taking advantage of us for some reason, because whatever reason. And so we're just going to say no. And like, if that person thinks that that's fair, then we're not meant to work together. So we would like to move on. And I think 100, like 1 out of 1, literally the people, when we say no, they come back being like, you know what, you're right. Let's do what you were talking about. And we're like, wow, like there is such power in saying this feels equal, or this feels like good for me moving forward. Because when we've agreed to things that don't feel good, then we have that feeling the whole time. And that's not the vibe you want to have throughout it. So I don't know. There's so much power in that. I love it.
And
I
I
love
feel
saying no lately.
like the general theme of all the stuff that we're talking about too is that like life is too short to not be enjoying it. Like at the end of the day, we're making movies.
Right.
We have the coolest job in the world. This is the job like everyone dreams of getting to do. And if it's not fun, then why are we doing it? There's a lot easier ways to make money that are a lot less stressful. And so we're here because we love it, and we try and make the process feel as good as we can along the way. Because why else are we doing it?
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you guys said no and felt empowered from it?
Oh my gosh. It wasn't that long ago.
I was gonna say, I'm thinking of that one. I'm thinking of that deal, Kara. I'm like, on it was I'm like, we shouldn't say this.
Give me like a word, like a quote.
I'm like, I think there was it was a development project, and
I know what it was. We got this project. I won't talk about what it is, but there was a project that so many people have made offers on, and they were making offers to fully finance, to put all these powerhouse names behind it. And me and Jessie had kind of gotten to know the directors, and we loved it from a creative sense. We're not famous, we're not fancy, like just creatively, we feel like we could give them so much in terms of a partnership, and in terms of like, honestly, like a workload, like we could really take a lot of work off their shoulders a little bit. And so we offered that, and we were told like, well, you guys aren't fancy, you aren't this, so like you should bring on a fancy person. And we just kept saying no, like we're just good enough. And like, you either want us, and we'll bring on a fancy person at another time, but like right now it doesn't need it. So like we're good enough, and if you want that, we're here, and if you don't, then like go with a fancy person. And I had so many different people call me being like, but so and so wants to partner with you. And I was like, that sounds great. No, I don't think it's what it needs right now. It's just not what the project needs. And Jessie and I held by our guns, and we were like, we're willing to lose it. I don't think that we will, because I think they're going to see how unique we are, that we are offering such a skill set that they're not being offered by anyone else.
Yeah.
And I kind of said that to the directors, and then we got it. And we got it. And not only did the directors say the reason we got it was because of that, but also like now we can build the entire machine differently, because we don't have a company ego person standing over us being like, it's going to be my show. It's like, no, like the project is better than any of us combined. It is such it's a documentary. So it's like the real life is the thing that we want to protect. The story of this mother, and her son, like that is what we want to protect. So I don't know, that's like a very interesting example of,
that's amazing.
I feel like we were so validated that we got it.
Can you tell us what it is? Is it in production now?
No, we shouldn't tell you because then
Then I
it'll
talk
tell you
now.
all the other people with it. It's in production now though, and it's one of my favorite things I've ever seen in my whole life. I mean,
Yeah,
Jesse as well. Like
we are
we
like so in
we
love with
preach it from the rooftops, but I just think it's such a beautiful project. So I'm so
When is it?
excited.
When can we look for it? Well, don't tell us what it is.
In
Tell us
It'll be
before.
a while. It'll be a while.
It'll probably be
Tell me when it'll give it
A
away.
long time. We'll talk a million times between now
yeah.
and then.
We'll talk between them.
Yeah.
We can reference this podcast later
Yeah,
and be like, "How was
exactly.
the project?"
Yeah,
Can you talk a little bit about when we do our summits and when we do workshops? Funding and financing is always a huge topic for our audience of advice and ins and outs. Can you talk a little bit about that, about raising money for projects and for your company, and also and maybe this kind of fits hand in hand of the like applying for grants and festival opportunities and things that you guys have had success in?
Yeah. So the way that we finance things at Pinky Promise is a bit unique in that we have a really traditional VC style back end. So we have gone out and raised two dedicated funds, and that money is invested across multiple projects. Our first film had over seven. Our second fund will have just as many. And so we really have found that that's been a successful way of getting buy-in from investors because the industry I think is the narrative is very much that and it's for good reason is that it's a high risk industry, but the way that other industries that are also high risk like tech investment have mitigated that by doing the fund
Mm-hmm.
model. And so we've had success with people that are kind of outside the industry or successful individuals from other industries that are curious about investing in film, and they're drawn to what Pinky Promise has to offer because we have the machine of a functioning production company, but you can, instead of going out and kind of putting your eggs into one basket, you could, by investing in the Pinky Promise fund, you can invest in multiple. um, and so that's how we're structured. But in terms of just the actual fundraising process, I think that you're going to get 100 no's for one yes, which is everyone knows that. But really, that's where the storytelling of any project begins. It doesn't begin when you have a script. It doesn't begin when you're on set. It really begins when you are inviting people to support what you're trying to build. That's really when the story starts. And so I think that honestly, having background as an actress has been really helpful in that department because it's really about engaging your audience of one about what this project can be, and viewing it as something that you're offering. I think something that I talk to, I think particularly as women that are young and young women in the industry, it can feel like you're taking something from somebody by saying like, oh, like please, like please, can I have some more? It's like no, you're offering something of real value. You're offering the opportunity for someone to get to participate in this beautiful mystical process that is movie making, and hopefully something that really strikes a chord with somebody, pulls on their heartstrings. And so I think that reframing it as you're adding value to somebody by them being able to invest in your project, and recognizing that that's the first part of the storytelling process, really can kind of kick your fundraising into high gear when you reframe it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I just want to say, the way we operate as a company, so we have a financing arm, which is, putting money into films, specifically with our mandate and our kind of guidelines. And then we have a production company arm, which is producing and developing and building, and they really kind of feed into each other. So what we get to develop, our investors get to be excited about because we're building it from the ground up. We found a short story, we found a book that we love, we found an idea, and they get to be a part of that. And that's kind of like a really special, unique thing that not every investment gets to be a part of like a production company's development arm.
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting the first opportunity to put money into Scarlett Johansson's directorial debut. You're not necessarily getting that from just an agency that's sending it to you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a unique ability to feed both. And Jessie has led the entire charge of raising money and kind of built this entire infrastructure so that we could kind of build out the other sections of the company to filter into that. So it
And
is
I
wonderful.
think also recognizing that you're always fundraising, and that an over communication is key. I mean, we really pride ourselves on being a very user friendly, very fun company to invest in, and that we are proactively giving our investors updates like photos from set and pictures from the Indie Spirit Awards and here's what happened this month, because that's really where the value add comes from for people. Like they want to feel like they're participating in the process, and like we want to be the favorite email that's popping up at the top of your inbox saying, oh, we have an update from Pinky Promise. It's going to be some fun postcard from the movie making experience. And that's it. And by doing that, you're fundraising for your next project. If someone enjoys what their experience, if they're doing it, you can't necessarily promise what or any return is going to be. We're always going to work hard to optimize for the best return we can give you. But in uncertain times, the one thing that is completely in our control is how much you've enjoyed the process along the way. So over communicate with your investors, please.
And they like the amount of people who've been so excited. We have a movie in competition at Cannes this year. Like we put money into Andrea Arnold's movie. Like being able to just even be a part of Andrea Arnold's movie in such a fun, iconic, like female filmmaker way is a very fun thing. Or like honestly, one of the most exciting things for our investors was when Lewis Pullman was in Starling Girl.
Yes, because he was in Top Gun.
Bob and Top Gun. And we were like, Bob and Top Gun is our lead of our movie. And our investors loved it. They were
loved it.
They were so excited about it. So it's the fun little things that you don't even know that they're going to enjoy until you tell them. So
you guys are marketers as well. I mean, you've got the whole, you were in the two of you wrapped up in fundraising and running the company and being producers, and you're great marketers. Well, I mean, that's a really unique.
Top Gun. We're here to really promote Top Gun. It needs the money, guys. Come on,
it does. They need help. They need help. But no, really, I mean, I don't think I've ever heard of a production company marketing themselves, and obviously the unique way that it's set up, but engaging like that and continuing to, to pull that to say, okay, we've got Bob from we know you all saw Maverick. We have Bob. That's a really unique way of looking. Now the VC style of building the fund was, Jessie, how did you come? I mean, did that start with you before you guys were partners? How did that start?
Jessie's a VC baby. She knows it all. The fact that you just use out words,
I don't Bachelor in Fine Arts, and I'm like, that is deep finance.
When she was speaking finance language, truly, when we first met, and she'd be like, "We're going to do a VC fund with a market cap," and I was just like sitting there, being like, "I know how to do an Irish accent. Like, what do you mean?"
It's funny. I do too. We both went to acting school. that's the joke. Like we both
You're like a VC financer. There you go.
This is why I choose my yin to my yang. You can raise millions of dollars. I can do an Irish accent.
You can produce a movie like in the middle of the night in the mud in rural Italy. Like we've got a good balance of skills here. But I guess in that regard, I Pinky Promise the kind of the financing structure is really a result of what happens when an actress grows up in a household full of business and business people and entrepreneurs and VC folks. I've got a family that have had success in those businesses and the kind of the tech VC side. And so you just growing up surrounded by that, that's how you end up with that application towards what's always been my passion, which is storytelling. So yeah, I learned a lot through osmosis, and then you also learn a lot on the job. But feel just an immense amount of gratitude. Just to have been like plopped into that home growing up like that. I'm just lucky and luck of the draw with that, and then also gratitude to the people along the way who believed that a 24-year-old woman with a degree in Shakespeare basically could go for this. So that also I'm very privileged to have had that faith in me from our early investors.
Jessie, quick question for you on that. When you're looking, it's like, and this is something that, a lot of our audiences pay attention to, is And obviously not to go into like your secret sauce of who are get your funding from in your LP base, but when you're looking for your financing and you're looking for your investors, are you looking at Hollywood? Are you looking at people who understand film? Because of the VC background, I can imagine you're going beyond that and getting really creative in terms of where you're finding those investors who are interested.
Totally. I mean, I think that the VC model really is this kind of link between people outside of the industry and the industry itself. Because as anyone who knows who is in it, there is all of this, jargon and lingo and kind of gatekeeping
Yeah.
around like the mystique of how a movie gets made, and basically distilling the film investment philosophy into a structure that people outside the industry already use and know and understand, makes it feel a lot more approachable. It's like, hey, I've invested in a VC fund before, and this, functions very similar to an asset class I've invested in before. So it kind of, it almost is like, demystifying the process. And then also, like, as we said, where we try and be really communicative with our investors about, what goes into it. We are not taking the money and running. We are, walking through, how waterfalls work, and, how we're, you choose, which star you want to pull in, and how that impacts, international sales, because we want to be adding that value back to our investors as well. So I think that the transparency, the kind of fun educational element, and demystifying what makes how you make a movie, and then bringing it in a format that someone who hasn't invested before already understands, is has been kind of how we've removed some barriers to entry for people to invest in film.
I will say too, some of our investors, like we had our first foundation investment, which I think is a really Adam. It's a huge, it's a big applause to Jesse and to Tyler, our
Yeah,
CFO,
Lewis, yes, all hard.
because not only does the work have to happen on our end to really prove the model and to show what we're trying to do, but it also has very specific guidelines of, Adama Ebo said this at the Hunk for Jesus premiere, and I completely believe it from like the beginning until now, which is again why I'm partners with Jesse. I remember Adama in the beginning of the premiere was like, thank you to Jessamine Burgum, because like she's putting her money where her mouth is. And that is what the company stands for, which is we say we're going to put money into women and to POC filmmakers and to LGBT filmmakers. And that is what we've done. And all of our money has gone towards that. I think out of our percentage, maybe we have one that is not that. And it was a doc, and it was a very small portion of it. So we really do try to put the majority of our assets into places that we believe in on like a moral level. But I say that to say like foundations don't give money without a lot of data and research and time and kind of infrastructure. So that is a huge testament to Jesse and Tyler.
I think people also underestimate the power of a mission, and a lot of the majority of our investors, I think, are people that are really motivated by what we're trying to do in terms of supporting women, POC filmmakers, LGBTQ artists. Like, that's something where, if you find the right people that's saying like, hey, like I understand the impact of media and representation, that this is where I want to put my money. Yeah, so it's a huge part of how we approach it.
Okay.
No, that's really interesting. And looking at your lineup, seeing, like you said, they say Jessica puts her money where her mouth is, or you put your money. I mean, looking at all of your projects, you see that. Um, Going back, you mentioned the Scarlett Johansson directorial debut. I when I first heard that, or read that, it was, my feeling was, oh my God, how did they, how did they get this? Obviously everybody has to be clamoring for that, or like, and and maybe not, but I like to look at it through the lens of you're supporting women, making changes in their career. Obviously, she's a huge name, and she's a big actor, but that's a risk, and so how can you talk a little bit about how that came about, and why you wanted to do that? Because you obviously think it's going to be successful. You're a new company, and you're looking, obviously looking for all of those things. How did that come about, and why did you think it was a smart thing for you guys to be involved with?
Well,
Well,
Kara touched on this a little bit earlier, where that's a project that we had optioned that script, years ago, and had been with us for a while. And truly just out of sheer love. But there's something kind of beautiful about that because that was out of sheer love for the story. We thought
Okay.
like this script is so good. Tori came in, shout out, incredible writer. And we were like, this is um, you know, representative of everything that we're about in terms of just types of storytelling. And that movie also stars a 94-year-old June Squibb. The lead is a 94-year-old
Yeah.
woman, Jewish woman. And we were like, that's
And
so
it's a
unique.
Jewish story, which is very cool. Like, how often do you get to see like movies about Judaism, which are just amazing? Which neither of
And
us are Jewish, but like we love the idea of making movies that are not being made. So
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And so we thought this is really unique. This is a story that certainly hasn't been told. And we thought, okay, it might not at first glance have that kind of, commercial appeal that people like to talk about in the industry. And we were, looking for ways that we could to kind of take that story and elevate it and have it reach the biggest audience that it could. And we had heard that that Scarlett had been looking for something to direct. We know that she's from New York. She's Jewish, and just felt a real kind of synergy just out of pure instinct, to be honest. And when we sent it to her, it was almost an immediate yes. So that's a super, that is, Kara's like, you talk about luck a lot. That is just, that is just luck that, a week later, she was attached to direct it. But I mean, there's so many reasons why we're excited about that project, but also, I mean, Scarlett obviously is a household name, the
Right.
household name of household names. But she's got more on-set experience than anyone else on that set combined. She's been doing it for so long, and yet she hasn't ever been in the director's seat.
Mm-hmm.
And so that felt just very in line with what we're about at Pinky Promise, where she obviously has the most experience, but somehow is still a first-time feature film director. And so we were really excited just to kind of hand over the reins to her and let her go, because she's been preparing for this her entire life. I mean, she's not a typical first time director. She knows exactly what she wants and how she's going to get it. And we're really excited for audiences to kind of get her to see that her point of view and that side of her. And also, it's really powerful to have a 94-year-old female lead. I mean, she is the star of the film.
She steals every scene she's in. I mean, she's so fantastic.
Completely.
Think about Nebraska. Oh, yeah.
I know.
She's so good. No, that is that I really, that was like just the idea of, and like you said, she's the household name of household names, but supporting women in different ways that they're moving through their career is something really interesting. And I think Pamela Anderson in the same way. I mean, we all, I love what she's doing now, what she's, back into acting in a different way. And there's something, I don't know, there's something about her, and I don't know if it's generational I mean, I'm way older than you guys, but is just cheering for her. And
completely.
Everything that she stands for and everything that she does, and this kind of resurgence that I just saw pictures of her from the Met Ball last night, and she looked just amazing. So tell us about that. Can you tell us about that project a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you go ahead. I've been talking so much. Kara, go ahead.
No. I was just I have a gardener behind me. He's literally in the window at my door blowing thing. What I was going to say was Pamela Anderson is kind of this moment of time where I feel like we were all laughing at women for a little while, like the Monica Lewinsky era, where like they were a little bit of like the butt of the joke. And I love so much that now these women are kind of getting not only their day, but like all of us are kind of questioning, like, why were we laughing? Why was that funny? Like, what was it about this person and their personal life being funny to public? And I think that the more that keeps coming into the public conversation, the more amazing it is, but also that these women kind of get to have their second act a little bit. I mean, Pamela Anderson, from this project, she wanted to do it so badly. She moved everything in her life, her schedule. They went to Vegas. They shot this very under the radar, like so small. When I tell you, like the tiniest team. And she just showed up every single day, like ready to do it, which is kind of all you can ask, especially from someone from her caliber. So we were so lucky to be invited into that one. It was not one that we developed. It wasn't our baby, but it was one that we kind of got a very quick phone call. And I think like before the phone call even ended, we were like, yes, 100% yes. Like it was one of the rare projects that there was no debating. We have a green light committee, as we call it, where we really go through each project, like a due diligence, and we go through each thing to talk about the 4 Ps, which we can explain more about. But that's kind of our own internal structure of what we say yes and no to. And for this one, I think it was the only project to date that all of us were like, yeah, we know 100%. Like, yes,
no, we're doing,
we're doing that project. We want to absolutely support it however we can. We wanted to support it even more, and they truly were like, we don't need that much because we have so much love from everyone else. So we're just like lucky to be along for the ride for that one.
People are going to be blown away by Pamela. Like just the depth of feeling that she has in that. I mean, it's really like you haven't ever seen her like this before. And I think it's going to be, people are going to be just floored by her performance.
Yeah. Should we talk about the 4 Ps? Is that interesting?
I want to hear about, and I want to hear a little bit about your team too. We'd love to hear
about
your team.
We love talking about our team. Like one time at a Sundance party, another person from a different company came up to us and was like, "It seems like you guys really like each other," and we were like, "We do." Like we all.
And then like pan smash cut to all of us taking off our shoes and like dancing on the living room, like together.
We're like friends. I mean, all of us have become such good friends, and even our assistants, we tell like, please leave us for someone better and like a bigger job and a bigger thing. But like, let us try to grow from the inside. Let us try to help you. Let us try to, move you forward. But don't leave just because you're like bored or tired. Like, let us try to, encourage you to stay as long as you want. So it goes from like the top to the bottom. We kind of adore and obsess with every single person. Which is all testament to Jessie. I told her this the other day. We were having lunch, and I was like, Jessie's secret skill, not so secret, is she hires incredibly well. She just knows what the weakness is in something, and then she finds that person immediately and puts it in. And every single person on our team is kind of a testament to that. The 4 Ps it's kind of our own process of how we find a project and if we decide to do it from like a financial producerial standpoint, but it's progress. Is it something, that's going to move the conversation forward? Profit, hopefully it would make money, ideally, even if it breaks even, we want that money to go back to filmmakers. We want the money to make more movies. We're obviously not like sitting in houses at Malibu right now. We're trying to put it back into the work. Partners, which is a new one, which is one that is more about the conversation that Jessie was saying earlier about who you make movies with and how you make them. We want to make them with nice people. So that's kind of a huge part of it now. And then the final one is
prestige.
Prestige.
You want to, live a big life and, be a part of the conversation and in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, prestige doesn't need niche. It means good. Like prestige to us means...
Is it good? Yeah.
Yeah, it means like, is this really good? Because you can make a lot of money making really bad things, but you don't, you have to make them good. So that's the final
it's one. Your quality, prestige, your quality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us, I know we're almost out of time. I can't believe you guys are, I knew I had so many questions and we were so excited to talk to you guys. We love to hear, you guys, sounds like you work a lot and love your jobs. We all do, but tell us what you're watching, reading, listening to kind of on your downtime. If you're truly on vacation or taking days off, what are you watching and enjoying?
I will tell you, Gretchen, what we're reading right now, which is A Court of Thorns and Roses. And if anyone wants to talk to me or care about it, I'm like, we should have call this number right here because I don't have enough people in my life that can talk about it, but I'm losing sleep over these books. They are consuming my life. And
you can write hello@pinkypromisefilms.com. We will start a book club.
Yes.
Sarah J. Maas is our queen, and we are here to serve her.
Yes.
She is the greatest author of our time. And we're
I actually want people to write hello@pinkypromisefilms.com and tell me your thoughts on chapter 54. I want, tell me your thoughts on what you think of XYZ. I want it all. I want women to come forward and talk about why this book is striking a chord with them, because it's all I think about, frankly.
If you don't know these books, they're a series. She has a couple different series. She's a very well-known writer. These books are just like the most fun, wild ride you've ever had. Like there's a deep fandom to this, like the club of these books. I started reading them and then I got Jessie hooked on them, and I haven't seen her in a month because she's been gone in this whole reading them.
And the way
so
that
funny.
like women specifically respond to these books, I think is like, I could like climb up on my soapbox here, is like so indicative of just like such a much bigger conversation around like femininity and strength and power and relationships. And it is, oh God, I'm freaking out about it.
Jessie's got the Pinky Promise.
Really, like I have not read these books, but I see
Renee, you have to.
You have to read them. Start with The Corn of Thorns and Roses, and then there's other series.
Gretch, have you read them?
No, and we're huge.
Read them. Trust me, read them.
Yeah.
Trust me, read them. Please.
Read them.
It's and also like the community, like the camaraderie of it. Like I was in New York when we were shooting Eleanor the Great, the Scarlett Johansson's film, and I was in a restaurant just like reading my book by myself, and my server comes up to me and she's like, "Where are you at? What part are you at?" And I'm like, "We're here." And she's like, "Oh my God, just you wait." She goes, like, "You're going to freak out." She comes back and she's like, "Did it happen?" And I'm like, "Yes, it happened. Oh my God." Like we're like this, like just having conversations with strangers on the street. Kara has the same experience.
I had multiple people on the train. Yes. I was reading on the train a lot going to and from set. Multiple people would stop me and be like, "Oh, you're going to love what's coming up." And I'd be like, "Okay, thanks." And they're just fun. They're easy. They're digestible.
I'm ordering this on Amazon like right now.
It's not normal, but it's also not the depth of world building and like in these nuanced and complex female characters. And it's also just like raising the standards of like every woman in America for relationships right now. She's like,
this is obviously we're not working with her, but our secret dream is we're going to slowly infiltrate the Sarah J. Maas universe because we want to work with her. We think she's incredible.
Renee and I are now your producing partners on this project.
She's a genius.
It was set up. It was a big series.
I didn't realize there's like 5 of them, so I'm ordering the box.
They should come with a warning, though. They should come with a warning that like it will become all consuming for you. Like it's impossible to like them in a normal way. It's the type of thing where you're having a conversation with somebody about something, and then your brain kind of fades out and is like, when do I get to go back home and read my book? Like that is like the type of pull it will have on you.
You're praying for travel. I'm like, what flights do I have coming up so that I can read uninterrupted?
Yes. I'm like,
it's a great travel book.
Airplane mode on.
It was the Hulu, and then they actually just dropped the series. So we'll see what happens with it. We're very excited about wherever it's going. But yeah, honestly, I've been watching a lot of old school rom-coms because we have a rom-com that we're developing.
Yeah,
that
same.
We're really excited about. So I've been watching I watched 13 Going on 30 this weekend.
Yes, I just watched it too.
The Idea of You, which I thought was incredible. I loved. So we've kind of been in that world for a little bit, and I'm loving it.
I have to say, this past weekend I did The Idea of You, and I did Anyone But You. Like the rom-com resurgent is like so nice. I'm so excited
into it, and we're jumping on the bandwagon because that's what we want to watch right now. Again,
I don't even know if I'll call it a bandwagon. I would just call it like a reawakening of this. It's like we're finally admitting to ourselves like what movies we actually love and like, and keep rewatching and saying like, okay, what if we applied like the same level of artistry and love to the types of stories that you just want to keep coming back to? I mean, I just like that's like I could just do that all day long. I'm like this is I'm so happy that people want to watch rom-coms again because this is what I'm doing for fun. So
and everybody is. I'm so tired.
I love to live.
Yeah, the media saying, "Oh, rom-coms are dead." No rom-coms. Like everybody I know is watching rom-coms, and then you see the financials on like Anyone But You, and it's like lots of people are watching rom-coms. Obviously,
yes,
everybody wants a feel-good story. It's like sometimes it's just like the world we're living in right now is a little it's going up and down, up and down these days, depending on what happens. You just want to like fade out and be like, people fall in love, just fall in love, and you want to watch it. And so, yeah.
When
no,
You
I'm with
Got
you.
Mail is in the top 5 on Netflix, you know something's happening.
Oh my God. Perfect movie. Perfect movie. You Got Mail is a perfect movie.
That's honestly what I'm watching. So really, really recent stuff.
Yeah.
The old rom-coms.
Oh,
Well, you guys, thank you so much for taking the time. It has been so great to visit with you, and we definitely want to see you guys at our summit next year. I know we're just getting started to work on programming, so hopefully you won't be on some beautiful faraway set, that it'll work out. But it's so nice to get to talk to you guys again.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ray. This is so fun. Such a great conversation.
Thank you for dealing with my gardening extravaganza.
All real life, right?
And good luck with not getting sick again, Kara.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks so much. We'll see. Goodbye, guys.